We're here to talk to Martyn Whistler, EY's lead analyst for media and entertainment, on EY's digital household report focused on viewing habits in the home. So Martyn, tell me a bit about streaming habits in UK households.
Well, essentially the UK has become a nation of streamers. We know that 30% of people now from our survey, they see streaming as the primary way for them to watch TV and movies in the home. And if you look at younger age groups, sort of 18 to 24-year-olds, that goes up to over 60%. So we really have become a nation of streamers. That doesn't mean to say, though, that we're ignoring the traditional ways of viewing and the traditional channels. We still like the content from the main brands, the ones that we're all familiar with, the ones that we've grown up with, but we're watching it in a very, very different way.
And tell me a little bit about streaming services and what that means for the traditional TV services.
I think there's always content that people will want to watch in the moment at a time that it's being broadcast, so we'll always tune into certain things. Things like sports, news, a lot of reality television. You have to watch it live, because if you don't, you can't talk about it on social media, or you can't talk about it in the office the next day. So broadcast and that linear experience is still going to be there to some extent. But I think a lot of consumers and audiences just want more choice, and streaming really affords them that. They can go into different services and choose whether they want to watch something on catch-up or a box set or whatever it happens to be.
You mentioned that consumers now have too much choice when it comes to content. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, it's a risky area, isn't it? Because we're very familiar with having a few core services that we access. And that was already starting to become a bit of a challenge to find what you wanted to watch at any given time. The explosion in streaming services is only going to get bigger. Over the next 12 to 18 months, I think we're going to see a lot more streaming services launching. Some of the big brands launching streaming services, but also a lot more niche as well. So it's really going to become a challenge. And in our survey, 24% of people said that they really struggle to find their favourite content across these different services. I think the industry needs to address that. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more sophisticated recommendation engines putting content in front of us, so that we don't have to go through different services to find what we want.
And in terms of, like you mentioned, finding our favourite content and catching up, but do you think consumers would pay a premium for content without any ads, or having the catch up exactly when they want to watch it?
One of the advantages of having so many different services is we actually become a lot more discerning about what we want to pay for. So more people actually now find value in their streaming services than they do in their traditional pay TV services, for example. If they see value in something, they'll pay for it. So high definition television, for example, is becoming increasingly popular. And although the numbers are still small, about 18%, we see a rise in the number of people that are prepared to watch catch-up services or pay to watch catch-up services without advertising. So if consumers see value, they'll pay for it.
And which are the figures that stand out most in the EY report?
I think there's some interesting numbers in there about how we're spending more time on the internet than we are watching television these days. So within a household, over 50% of people say that they're on the internet more than they are with the household. I think the streaming numbers are really interesting. I think that's a trend that we're only going to see increasing. It's a generational thing. And we also asked a lot about quality of content as well. So which services have the best quality. And although with across the board, the traditional channels really came out very strong in that, it's quite interesting to see with some of the younger demographics, they tend to skew quite heavily towards the streaming services. So that trend will be interesting over time.
Great, thank you very much, Martyn, for joining us today.